The Ancient Mariner is, it's 55 pages long. It's a remarkable statement, and clearly Wordsworth and Coleridge thought this is a poem. But then the first line is, "It is an ancient mariner," and I think that is just worth thinking about that. I mean, because it gives, where has he come from? It's not "it was an ancient mariner" or "there was an ancient mariner," which immediately makes it this kind of legendary figure from the deep past. It has this tremendous, sort of stunning immediacy, but also it seems to be answering an unspoken question. So there's that. It's like this announcement of presence. I think the thing which Romantic poetry is forever trying to get at is the sources of creativity, and the intimacy, the closeness of creativity to some forms of transgression. The transgression perhaps being an outright crime, or perhaps being a refusal to go along with the norms of society, or with...
So it's breaking society's rules in some way.
In some way, breaking rules or running away. So the Romantic poets, as imaginative transgressors, people who are in one way or another exiles, in one way or another they are un at home. They can't be quite at home
in society,
in the regular world, in the daily world. And I think that the Ancient Mariner works as it famously hinges upon the moment when the mariner shot the albatross inexplicably, and the consequences of that. This is the crime that can never be escaped, and it can't be escaped in particular because it needs to be rehearsed over and over and over again. And so it's the crime which generates the poem, and that's true not only in the sense that it's the pivotal event in the poem, but that it's the event that has to be told. He has to keep telling the poem over and over and over again. And so an original transgression which produces poetry. But then it also, within the poem, what happens is this, that he's on the boat, he kills the albatross, and then he enters this whole new space, and you get there's a weird sense in which he's in a kind of world of poems, or a purely imaginative world, in which the killing of the albatross isn't simply a terrible, inexplicable crime. It's also a kind of miraculous gift, because it opens the sense that the mariner enters this space where everything has to begin all over again, where the principles of things are not given, they have to be discovered, where the world is not built, is not established, but is in process right at the very, very beginnings. And so we're in a world which, I mean, it's very characteristic of the Romantics, Romantic poets, in that geography or environment is always psychologized or eroticized. It's always like a sort of translation of the mind, of desire, and this sort of thing. And so what we get here is this kind of weird green ice, and the strange white fog, and the weird slimy things on the sea, and all these things. They all seem to me to be ways of trying to picture or imagine the not just the origins of life, but the origins of thought and the origins of imagination, and you begin to piece together a survivable world.
And does the albatross, is it a symbol of, do you think, of
I think
the
when I think
regular world?
No, I don't think it's a symbol
Not
of.
that.
I don't think it's a symbol of the regular world. It's a multiple kind of symbol. It can mean it means all sorts of things and none of these things. But I think it also, I think in a basic way, the albatross is. I think it's something like a nearly symbol. I think it works because it clearly invokes notions of Christ. There's no question of that. But it's not Christ. So it invokes the idea, the possibility of Christ, but it isn't that. It invokes the idea of brotherhood and companionship, but it isn't that. It evokes the idea of creatureliness and togetherness with all creatures, but it isn't quite that. And so it keeps coming. It keeps coming. It also comes out of. There's a particular moment when Coleridge is talking about. the ice was here, the ice was there, the ice was all around. He talks about that, and then he enters the ice, and he sort of physically enters the ice. You might think that's an impossible thing to do, but not in this poem, because normal notions of possibility don't apply. So he enters ice. We can enter water, but entering ice is a much stranger conception. He enters the ice, and it's like a great big swoon, and a swound, he calls it, and a swound is a kind of a faint. And so it's some sort of visionary, hallucinatory experience which is beyond the normal, and out of this comes the albatross. The albatross comes flying out of this, as it were, and then he gets shot. So in some sense he's carrying all these energies. And of course the albatross, the relationship between the mariner and the albatross in many ways repeats the relationship between the mariner and the wedding guest. And so there's this terrible sense in which he's the double, the other, the opposite, but also the identical to him, and so forth. So it's also to do with, you know, original sin. Coleridge is obsessed with original sin, and the idea that the basic predicate, the basic condition upon which life is even allowed is sinfulness. Coleridge believed that, you know, and I think all of these romantic poets, not just Coleridge, in some sense go hunting for sin.